That was the worst one of them all.
You just put your stump in the ground, drill a hole in your bearer, feed the metal through the bearer, and then bend it over. G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dingle DIY. Now we're starting off a new mini-series here in Langwarrin. And originally when we got here, we were supposed to replace weatherboards, but as we started to peel back the layers, we discovered some rotten stumps as well. So let me take you back to the beginning when we first discovered the damage, and then we can jump into sorting this mess out. This job is primarily to replace some ruined weatherboards on this side of the house. Replacing the plinth boards is part of the job. Alright, so we've had a bit of an eventful day. Originally I just wanted to show you guys how to do cement sheet weatherboards, but as a part of this job we've been pulling off the plinth boards, which are the boards at the bottom, and we're actually discovering these stumps are rotten, so we can't really do our plinth boards. We've only got one on so far because we've got these stumps to replace. So I might just turn this into a bit of an episode. I'll show you not only how to do the weatherboards, but show you how to re-stump as well, because coming onto this side of the house, this is where I patched the weatherboards. There's a bit of water damage. Now all the ones with paint on them need to go. And this is why. They're not actually holding any weight, which is quite frightening considering how many of these are completely detached. Some of them are kind of 3/4 okay, but still need replacing, and some of them are completely just severed. So that's the update at least. We're still waiting for a delivery, so we might actually end up doing the stumps before the weatherboard. So stick around and we'll see what happens. I've got all my stumps and concrete here. We'll be restumping in this next section. So just a few things I want to run through. First of all, there's two ways to approach. Dog's going off. When you have the opportunity to restump, you can also lift the house because inevitably it would have sunk. And then the objective is to lift the house back up and get everything nice and flat and nice and level. You can do that, you don't have to do that. So the downside to this is your house won't be level. Some things you got to consider are when you jack the house up, you will inevitably crack the plaster. And the other thing as well is tiles. So if you're leveling the floor in an area where there's a bathroom or a kitchen or anywhere with tiles, the tiles will either crack or they'll just completely separate from the glue. And then that is another thing that you're gonna have to fix, which could obviously snowball into a lot of work and a costly exercise. We will only be replacing the stumps. We won't be leveling the house. We've got 4 stumps in so far, and we've come up with a bit of a system, and it took us about 4 stumps to figure that out. So digging the hole is digging the hole. Just use either trowels, hand trowels, or short shovels. You could get an attachment for a hammer drill, and I've seen augers for regular battery drills. Maybe something like that would help loosen up the soil. As you can tell, we've obviously not chopped holes in the floorboards. That's what some other people do if you're trying to retain your floorboards. It just makes the digging a lot more difficult, but I think it's worth it. You don't have to fix up all your floorboards. As far as getting the stump in, there is a piece of rebar that sticks out of the end of the stump. You have to drill a hole in the bearer, and you have to dig your hole a little bit deeper. So you've got to wrangle the Rio through the hole that you've drilled through the bearer, and then there should be a little bit sticking out, and you bend it over. Once you bend it over, you can put packers underneath that bent piece of metal or Rio or a wedge, and that'll help lift the stump hard up to the bearer, and it'll hold it there while the concrete dries overnight. So another little hack to help hold the stump while you're bending the Rio and just fiddling around, there is a clamp here, and the whole purpose of this shorter metal clamp is to give this longer clamp something to hold on to, and as you do this clamp up towards the bearer, it will lift the stump hard up. Welcome to my shed, everyone. Now, before we get too far into this, I wanted to just demonstrate using some smaller pieces of timber how all this is supposed to go together. Now, it's a lot more difficult to film things when I'm lying under a house and holding concrete stumps in the air, so I just want you to pretend that these small bits of timber are the bearers and these pink bits of timber are the stumps. Now, the stump you're about to see me use isn't my preferred type of stump. And this is the representation I have of it here. It's basically a stump with a piece of metal coming out of the middle. Now, you use these when you're building new floors, not when you're restumping. That way you just put your stump in the ground, drill a hole in your bearer, feed the metal through the bearer, and then bend it over. And what that's going to do is support the bearer because there's a stump under it. It's also going to stop the bearer from bouncing away from the stump when you're walking on it, and that's what's going to make the floor feel nice and solid. Now, if you can get your hands on them, my preferred way to restump is with restumping specific stumps, and the difference is instead of a piece of metal coming out of the middle, they have a piece of metal on the side which is looped. What that allows you to do is put a screw or a nail in your bearer, and the benefit of that is that you can loop your stump over that nail, and that's what will support the weight of the stump while you're getting it level and letting the concrete set. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't get my hands on the stump I wanted, so what we had to do was use a series of clamps, one clamp on the stump and another clamp on that clamp to then close the gap between the bearer and the stump, and that's how we supported everything while we were getting it in position and letting the concrete cure. Now, one more thing I just want to say is some of these timber stumps, as rotten as they are, there are some severed ones which I did show you earlier, but these will come out once the concrete is cured and the concrete stumps have taken over the job, and then we can pull these out because they're just dead weight and they're basically just termite food at this point, so no need to have them in here. We'll just pull them out.
Alright, that was the worst one of them all. You can see there's not much room between me and the house. That's the nature of restumping if you don't want to chop up your floorboards, unfortunately.
Alright, as you can see, the plinth boards are back on, and that's pretty much it for restumping. So I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed these videos. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Pipe jellies. Traditionally, you would cut weatherboards with a handsaw.